Brachos Daf Chavav contains the end of the third perek. From the beginning of the daf until the end of the perek discusses the halacha of having marital relations in a room with a sefer Torah in it, distancing oneself from solid waste, and a bathroom. Then we have a Mishnah, which we've seen quoted earlier, which discusses the halacha of a balkari, somebody who had a seminal emission, but also bears another type of tumah which cannot be dealt with a simple tefillah and a mikvah. What is his halacha? So let's begin the Gemara here. The Gemara says that Rabbi Shua ben Levi said a halacha: if one has a sefer Torah in the room where he has his bed, which he uses for relations, he must have a wall at least 10 tefachim high between the sefer Torah and the bed. The Gemara quotes an incident. Mar Zutra went to Rav Ashi's house and saw his bedroom, and that was the setup he had. He had a sefer Torah with a wall between the bed and the sefer Torah. So he said, just because Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that that's okay, doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to do. Better off keeping the sefer Torah in a different room. So he said, you hear? I hear. I didn't think about it. I think when it refers back to the Mishnah, it said that halacha that one must be 4 amos away from solid waste when he is saying Shema Shemona Esrei. And the Gemara says that this only takes care of the issue of being close to the solid waste, being in the same reshus as the solid waste. But as we learned in the previous daf, there's another issue, and that's being within a line of sight of it. You have to make sure you're not within a line of sight. So if you cannot turn your line of sight away, then you have to back away so far that you cannot see it anymore. Same halacha applies to tefillah. Now the Gemara challenges this from the following statement of Chisda: a bathroom has the same halachic status as solid waste itself, especially if it has solid waste inside the bathroom, which is what commonly happened in their facilities, which were just a hole in the ground. So Gemara says that the Gemara quotes Rav from Rav Papa, Rav from Bar Papa, the name of Chisda, that a person is allowed to be mispalel facing a bathroom, and that's not a problem. So what happened to this vision thing that you said? So the Gemara tries to escape from this question in a few different ways. First, the Gemara wants to say, no, this bathroom is talking about a cleaned out bathroom, so there's no actual solid waste there. The Gemara says that can be, because we learned the halacha that even if a bathroom is cleaned out, it still has the halacha of solid waste. The bathroom itself, empty of any actual fecal matter, has the halachic status of solid waste. So that doesn't help you escape the problem. You still see a proof from this case that you're allowed to be facing a bathroom or solid waste. So the Gemara tries to escape in a different way. The Gemara wants to say, okay, well, so I'll tell you we're talking about a new bathroom, which was never used. The Gemara says, well, that can be because Ravina asked a Shaila, does a new bathroom have a halachic status of a bathroom or not? If it was never used, it was just set aside to serve as a bathroom. The Gemara says, no, his question was about something else. He was asking, are you allowed to actually be inside the bathroom and saying holy words? But to face the bathroom, that's for sure, that's not a shaila, and therefore that's really the case that the Gemara meant when it said you're allowed to be praying facing the bathroom. But otherwise, you're not allowed to actually be saying holy words when you're facing any type of objectionable material or place. Now the Gemara discusses something called a besikise parsa, a Persian restroom, which pretty much parallels a setup where there's an outhouse and a cesspool, and the waste material runs down a tunnel which carries it laterally a distance away from the actual outhouse. And where it says that is halacha of a covered tzoa, because the actual fecal matter is not present in the outhouse, it is deported to the cesspool as soon as it is placed in the outhouse. Now we get to the last Mishnah in the third parak of the Masechta, which discusses the halacha of a balkari, somebody who had a seminal emission. Again, this could refer to a man who had a seminal emission or a woman who had an ejection of seminal fluid from her body. The Gemara wants to know if such a person had another stronger tumah on them that does not come off with tevilah in a mikvah. Is there a point in going to the mikvah for tevilas Ezra? Will that tevilah in the mikvah help at all if there's another tumah that won't come off anyway? So the Gemara will bring 3 cases. In each of them, the Tanakama says he should or she should go to the mikvah for tevilas Ezra, and Rabbi Yehuda says she should not. What are the cases? The first case is just referring to a man who is a zav, and then he gets tumas keri. The second 2 cases are referring to a woman who has tumas nida. In the first one, she has tumas nida first and then gets tumas keri, and the second one she has tumas keri first and then gets tumas nida. The difference being that if the tumas keri is there first, before the tumas nida arrives, theoretically she could go to the mikvah already then, because there never was a tumas nida on her at the time that the chiyuv tvila of keri begins. So there'd be more of a reason to say that in a case like that she should go to the mikvah. But either way, the halacha remains the same. Now the Gemara asks, well, we missed out a case over here. What about a Balkari, a man who was first a Balkari and later became a Zav? What happens in a case like that? So the Gemara says it should be the same, theoretically, as a similar case with a woman who was first a Balkari and then had Tumas Nida. And the Gemara accepts that. The Gemara had first thought that there was a different explanation for Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, which is what the Gemara was asking. And then Rabbi Chia brings a brayso that says this explicitly, clearly, and that is the Gemara's conclusion, that the same halacha would apply. It would be similar to the case of a woman who has the same status, and that is the end of the parak. We now begin the fourth parak of Masechta Brachos. What we will learn on our blot is the halachas of the correct time for Shemona Esrei of all the tefillos, Shachas, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and Musaf. We will also be discussing Tashlumin. If somebody missed the time, can he make it up? Which tefillos can you be mashlim? Can you make up? Which tefillos can you not? When could you make them up? And then the Gemara will go through the source of each of the tefillos, where they come from, and what the correct timing should be. So let's begin the Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses four Shemona Esrei, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, Musaf. What is the correct time for each of them? So, Shachris, the Tanna Kama says until Chatzais, Rabbi Yehuda says until the fourth hour of the day. The Gemara will define that. Mincha, the Tanna Kama says until nightfall. Rabbi Yehuda says until Palag HaMincha. That's the Gemara will define that. It's 2.5 hours before nightfall. Ma'ariv, the Mishnah says Ein Lo Kvad, does not have a set time, which seems to indicate that it can go all night. And Musaf can go the entire day, and that is the Mishnah. Now, the Gemara. So first, the Gemara questions our establishment of the time for saying Shachris correctly. We had said that Shachris was all the way until Chatzos, at least according to the Tanna Kama. So the Gemara says, what I mean? We learned earlier in the Masechta, you're supposed to say it right after sunrise, so that it could be very close to Kriya Shema, which you'll say right before sunrise. So the Gemara answers, that's for the Vasikim, that's for the Tzadikim, that's the correct way to do it if you're trying to do everything right. Now we're learning the latest way. The people who are barely making it, what's the latest that they can go? That's the halacha we are discussing over here. So the Gemara says, hold on a second, but then it's not until Chatzais. You're able to do Shachris even later than that, like we learned. If somebody missed Shachris, he could daven 2 Minchas. And if he missed Ma'ariv, he can daven 2 Shachrises. So you could daven it the whole day, because you could make it up even during Mincha. So the Gemara says, that's a makeup. That does not give you Schar Shachris of Tefillah Bizmana. You're allowed to say Shemona Esrei and you get Schar Tefillah, but it's not Shachris Bizmana. Now the Gemara says, so what about making up Mincha by saying 2 Ma'arivs? Could you do that? Now the question here is as follows. The Tefillas, the Shemona Esreis we're going to learn, were set up to parallel the karbonos that we used to bring. A carbon has to be brought, has to be put on the Mizbeach on the day that it was slaughtered. So Mincha to Ma'ariv is not the same day. The day changes between Mincha and Ma'ariv. So if you missed Mincha, you can't make it up anymore that day. Could you still make it up the next day? Or is it like a carbon, and you can't make up a carbon a day later? It's got to be brought the same day. So the Gemara quotes a brayso which seems to say explicitly if you missed Mincha, you could do 2 Ma'arivs. And the Gemara asks, we have a pasuk that says as follows, Ma'uvus lo yuchol liskoin, a deprivation that cannot be repaired, and a chisaron lo yuchol lehimanis, a lack that cannot be filled. The first thing is somebody who missed Kriya Shema or Shemona Esrei in the right time. And the second one is somebody who had an opportunity to be counted amongst people who are doing a mitzvah, and he missed that as well. So Gemara says, you see here then that this doesn't fit, because here we said that it's a deprivation. It can't be fixed if you missed the right time. Gemara says, this is talking about where you missed on purpose. You missed on purpose, you have no tashlumin, you don't have a makeup date. A makeup date is if you made a mistake. And where it says, if you look carefully at the words here are bitel. He canceled the mincha. But it doesn't say he made a mistake. It says he canceled it, and that seems to imply that he did it knowingly. The Gemara now spends some time discussing this makeup Shemona Esrei that you're allowed to do the next tefillah twice. The Gemara wants to know which one is the makeup. So the Gemara says the makeup is the second one. The one that you're saying now is the first one, and the makeup Shemona Esrei is the second one. For example, if you are saying Ma'ariv, so you missed Mincha. So the first Shemona Esrei you're saying now is the one for now, which is Ma'ariv, and the second one will be Mincha. So if it's Matzah Shabbos, you would say 2 weekday Shemona Esreis, and the first one would be Ma'ariv, and that one you should say Havdalah in, says the Gemara, and the second one is going to be the makeup for Mincha, and you should not say Havdalah. What if you did it the opposite way? You said Havdalah in the second one and not the first one. So the Gemara says, so the second one counts as the first one, and the first one counts as nothing, because you have to have Havdalah in Ma'ariv, in a Ma'ariv Shemon Esrei, and you can't do it in the opposite order. So your Havdalah Shemon Esrei was the second one, so that counts as your Ma'ariv, and the first one was in the wrong time, wrong place. You cannot say your makeup Mincha before you do Ma'ariv, so it doesn't count. You got to do it over again. The Gemara asks, this seems to indicate that if you didn't say Havdalah in Ma'ariv Shemon Esrei, your tefillah is no good. You got to say it over again. Because otherwise I could tell you that the guy who didn't say Havdalah in his first Shemon Esrei, okay, it was Ma'ariv, he just forgot to say Havdalah. What's the big deal? So the Gemara says, but this is not true. The halacha is that you do not have to repeat Shemon Esrei. And the Gemara quotes a brisa to that extent. If you forgot to mention Gvuros Gshamim, you praise for Hashem for bringing rain in Tchias HaMesim, you don't have to repeat. And if you forgot to say Havdalah in Chayin and Adas, you don't have to repeat, because I know you're going to say it later over a cup of wine. So it's difficult to understand this brisa. The Gemara says kasha, or leaves it as a question, which means the Gemara is not too bothered by it, but the Gemara doesn't have a clear answer to it. Now the Gemara wants to know, where do these tefillos come from? Shachar, Mincha, Ma'ariv, where are they from? So there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina and Yeshua ben Levi, and each one has a brisa to support them. The first opinion is that it was created by the Avos. The Gemara quotes the brisa to support this, like it says by Avram. It says Vayashkem Avram b'Boker Amakom she'amad sham. Omad means tefillah, like it says Vayamed Pinchas Vayafalo. Yitzchak did mincha, like it says Vayetze Yitzchak l'suach basad elifnei erev. Yitzchak went to speak in the field towards evening. Speaking sicha is tefillah, like it says tefillah lani kiyatei v'lifnei Hashem yishbach sichai. Yaakov created Ma'ariv, like it says Vayifka b'makom v'yal sham, when he went in Vayetze and he went to Beis Kel, it says Vayifka b'makom. That was already evening because the sun went down, and it says Vayifka. The word Vayifka, the Gemara says, refers to tefillah, like it says Va'ata al tispala ba'ad ha'mazeh va'al tisabad armino tefillah ve'al tifka bi. Hashem says, don't be mispala. So the word pigia refers to tefillah. Now the Gemara says the second opinion was Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who says that it's not the Avos who did it. It is Chazal who created Shemon Esrei, and it's meant to replace the Karbanos, which we no longer have. We had a Karban Tamid in the morning, we had a Karban Tamid in the afternoon, that's Shachas Mincha, and then Ma'ariv was when they put the limbs of Karbanos that were sacrificed during the day, they put the limbs and the fats back on the Mizbeach. So Gemara quotes a brisa to support this contention, and the Gemara now brings along a brisa which discusses why the times that apply to each Shemon Esrei are applied. Where do these times come from? So the Gemara compares it to Karbanos. The Brisa, compares it to Karbanos, and Brisa says as follows. Tfilas Shachris is a machlokes whether it's until Chatzos or until the 4th hour, because it was created by Chazal to parallel the Karban Tamid Shel Shachris, and that was a machlokes Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda if it was permitted to be brought until Chatzos or only until the 4th hour. What about Mincha? So again, there's a machlokes if you can go until the evening with the Tamid Shel Bein Harbayim, the afternoon Karban and Tamid, or it has to be brought by Plaga Mincha. Say machlokes again to when you're allowed to say Shachris. What about Ma'ariv? Why do we say it's all night? Because Ma'ariv was for the burning of the limbs and the fats, and that could be done all night. What about Musaf? Musaf can be all day, because Karban Musaf could be brought all day. Now the Gemara adds, and this is a potential girsa in the Mishnah we had before, that would be that Rabbi Yehuda says it has to be brought by the 7th hour. Now the Gemara, the Brisa continues, and it says, what is Mincha Gedola and what is Mincha Ketana? The terms Mincha Gedola and Mincha Ketana refer to the correct times for bringing the Karban Tamid from the afternoon. Mincha Gedola is the earliest you could possibly bring it, which is when it was brought on Erev Pesach, because all the Karban Pesachs had to be brought afterwards, so we moved it up as early as we could. So that's called Mincha Gedola, and the Gemara defines it as 1/2 hour after Chatzos, and that is when the sun is already turning towards the lower part of the sky, just beginning to turn out of the top of the sky towards the lower sky, and therefore it's already called afternoon. What is Mincha Ketana? Mincha Ketana is the correct time for bringing the Karban Tamid. The Gemara defines that as 2.5 hours before sunset, which comes out to be 9.5 hours from the beginning of the day. So concise is 6 hours into the day, and mincha gedola is 6.5 hours into the day, and mincha ketana is 9.5 hours into the day, 2.5 hours before the end of the day. Now the Gemara wants to know, what is plag ha-mincha? Plag ha-mincha means half a mincha. So plag ha-mincha is halfway from mincha ketana to sunset. It's 2.5 hours. So plag ha-mincha is going to be an hour and a quarter. And if you do the math, it comes out to 10 hours and 45 minutes from the beginning of the day. The Gemara wants to know, when Rabbi Yehuda says he's supposed to say mincha during plag ha-mincha, which half of mincha time was he referring to? Again, plag ha-mincha means half of mincha ketana, half of the 2.5 hours. Did he mean the first half, the first hour and a quarter, or the last hour and a quarter, meaning the hour and a quarter before Shkia? The Gemara says he meant the last hour and a quarter. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, from plag ha-mincha, which is the halfway mark, for the last hour and a quarter until sunset is the correct time for saying mincha. The Gemara says, well, we see from here clearly that the source of karbanos the source of tefillah was from karbanos. So how does that fit with Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, who said that it was because of the avos? So the Gemara says, even Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina agrees that the structure of the tefillah was built around the karbanos. The avos set it up. They started it. They instituted it. But the Rabbanon, the Chachamim, set a structure for it around the karbanos times. And you have to say that way, because otherwise where do you get musaf from? None of the avos were attacking musaf. So it has to be that Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina agrees that the Chachamim gave it the structure of the karbanos, and therefore they have a tefillah for carbon musaf as well.